Hi guys. I know that the light is rather uneven. I apologize. But yay, 90th video post. It's kind of sad that we have reached hours upon hours of me blithering on to an audience that is interested but ultimately had to be subjected to said hours of the equivalent of watching paint dry. Yeah. I'm so proud of me. What an accomplishment. But first of all, big thanks to T. She got me a user pick package and updated my Livejournal. While I didn't mind looking at Russian ads and ads for purple, which, by the way, is the bed that I purchased, um, it can get kind of old when they don't change them up. So there's that. Um, oh my gosh. The last couple of weeks, my dudes, the last couple of weeks. So today I had to take time off to take my car in to get her passenger headlamp replaced and the light switch thing for it, which sits, it's a Jeep Cherokee, so here's the steering wheel, and down over here is where you can actually switch the lights, make them auto, make them, full for basically make it where it can detect whether or not it needs the lights. But we leave it on auto because if you put it on any other setting, when you go to turn on your turn signal, it shuts off. It shuts off your backlights. Don't ask me why it does that, but if you literally have it on any other setting other than auto, if you turn on the turn signal, it shuts off the lights in the back for the turn signal. Don't ask me why. But I had to go get that repaired today because when I was on my lunch break, or not my lunch break, my very last break yesterday, it said your front headlamp is low, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm wondering if my brights, which I didn't know the thing for the brights is one of the sticks on the dash because, well, I don't use the brights at all if I can help it. So this isn't something I would remember. I thought that it was something that was on the switch and I just hadn't messed with it yet. So I start turning the switch, see, okay, is this a problem that I can fix? When literally the little round button, it's own little panel. It has these little wheel things for the brightness, inside the cabin, brightness of the display. And it has this little wheel thing for the lights themselves. Aside from the brights. For the lights themselves, the little knob portion of it went down inside the console. You can guess the variety of words and the tones in which they came that go up and down the scale when this happened. So, needless to say, I took some time off from my job today, and I took the kids with me because why the fuck not? And we went touring down to the only garage I will take this vehicle to. And I tried to call a couple of garages around here, but they seem to be under the impression that every asshole that lives in this area has 2 or 3 cars at their disposal. I can just drop it off at my leisure. Because, yeah, that's how unimportant this is to me. But I got it taken care of. As I was saying in one of my posts, I'm still trying for this naval security position. So over the last couple of weeks, the last month, I have gotten physicals part 1 and part 2. Now, the first set, I actually had to take another half day because I never received an email or a phone call telling me, don't eat anything for 10 to 11 hours. And I made the mistake of drinking a cup of coffee about 5 hours before I was going to have my blood drawn. Yeah, so when I went in the next day for this half day that I took from work, I didn't even drink water. The lady was like, did you have water? I'm like, no, I had nothing. I was taking no daggone risks. So, of course, my blood moved along at like this sluggish level because I was dehydrated. It was kind of ridiculous. But on that front, so they said, let us know in a couple of days if you don't hear from us, to set up the next portion. The next portion is 19 push-ups in 2 minutes. I can do about 11 to 15 without thinking too hard. The last 4 or 5 are really, really hard for me. And that's just because I'm probably placing my hands wrong, honestly. Let's just go ahead and say that. And 1.5 miles in 17 minutes and 30 seconds. That's the one I'm sweating because they want you to run it. Now, I can fast walk and jog along with the best of them, but running is not something that I do. I literally lose air right now just thinking about running. And I can already feel the shin splints starting because I'm thinking about running. But if you tell me, this is what's hilarious. If I think about running, I literally get a stitch in my side. I can't breathe. I start hyperventilating and my legs start to ache. It automatically feels like I am trying to move against water. And all I'm trying to do is move against air. Okay? I can move against water 10 times better. But if you tell me, hey, that guy took my wallet and point, I won't even think about it. I'll just sprint right after him. But I can't maintain that for a long period of time. I just can't. I have never been what you would call a physically active person. A friend of mine here is doing yoga and is able to do planks and this, that. Dude, you have 100% my admiration. I adore you anyway, but I admire you 10 times more. Plus, you play hockey. So it's like, holy shit. I mean, you actually do physical things. The biggest physical thing I do is wash a dish or lift a book. I mean, that's the most physical thing. Well, I go up and down stairs a whole lot because, the house is multi-level. But it's like carrying a load of laundry up and down is nothing compared to hockey sticks for 1 to 2 hours on ice in heavy equipment. Okay? And then yoga, and then being able to do planks and okay, wow. All right. I've been thinking of taking up Tai Chi. The only problem I have with this is the fact that I want to be perfect. I'm just one of those weirdos. You guys know who I'm talking about. I want to be good at everything that I put my mind to immediately, and I have no patience with me if I can't do it. So you can kind of imagine how this test is now freaking me out. Well, they called me yesterday. I called them first, and then he called me back, and it was one of those things where he was, well, how far out do you need this? I'm like, well, give me a couple weeks. I need to be able to arrange this with my work. So I receive an email today telling me it's in 5 days. Is that okay? By the way, congratulations for making it this far. And I'm like, oh, because 5 days really isn't enough time for me to feel, well, I don't feel confident anyway. I mean, I've kind of slacked off and doing my push-ups and all that. So I can see that the next 5 days are going to be pretty grueling for me. And I don't know if any of you guys, you probably have not seen me walk. Now, I know at least 2 or 3 of you have, because I've actually met you guys. You all have seen me move without realizing I'm moving. And I move at a pretty good clip. I mean, I move pretty fast. I had to learn how to slow down when I had children, which is a lot harder than it sounds when you're used to moving quickly. So I might be able to do it if I jog intermittently, but this is the part of it that I'm super worried about it, because I'm energetic. I spend most of my time on my feet, but I'm not a go out of my way to be physically active person. So I move, even when I'm playing video games, I'm up and down off the couch. I'm constantly moving. I'm doing something besides sitting down and vegging and playing video games. I find it very difficult to do that because I'm always used to moving in some form or fashion. So I guess technically I'm a physically active person, but not in the way that they kind of need you to be. I cannot run worth a damn. Upper body strength like push-ups is kind of I could probably pull that off quite easily 15 years ago, but not so much today. Now, you want sit-ups, you've got me. I can do that all day long. But it's just, I'm like, oh my, I'm sweating this so hard now. I was sweating it as a concept a couple of months ago. I was sweating it hard even then. I'm sweating it even harder now. So just to say I'm a little bit nervous as I rattle on about it is kind of an understatement. So we'll see how well I do. I mean, I made it this far. It also turns out it's not security. Remember I said I'm aiming for a naval security position. Navy bases don't have security. Navy bases have naval police. So it seems that this is what I'm trying out for, which I found out about a month ago. I was like, yeah, I'm trying out for the naval security position. They're like, yeah, the naval police. And I was like, the what? They were like, yeah, the naval police. And I'm like, is that security? They were like, yeah, the police on the base are the security. So I couldn't get in as dispatch for a regular police station. When I tried out for the police force in Springville, there's no way. I mean, I did not clear any of the physical requirements at all. But their security is their police, so police is security, so I'm only required to pull off what a security officer would need to pull off. Now I'm just worried about whether or not I'm going to pull off what a security officer needs to pull off, because I was security about 15 to 20 years ago, but I haven't been one for quite a while. Yeah, so that's a little bit nerve-wracking. So it's accelerated. At one point in time, it was just a whole lot of fill this out, and then come and get your blood drawn, and then hearing tests and seeing tests and all of that. At the current workplace I'm at, which, by the way, I am a door screener. This means I am now increasingly dealing with people who are more and more hostile about having to wear a mask when they come to the hospital being screened for COVID, and about one or two of them, I'm quite sure, lying to my face when they come in and say, oh no, I don't have COVID, I've never had any signs, symptoms, or contact with anybody who's had COVID, which we actually, I think we have a floor for it. So it kind of makes it a moot point. But at the same time, it's considered necessary. I mean, when you are working in a hospital environment, or when you are working in an environment like even the busing system, I would think, would still need this to be necessary. You're talking about a lot of people in a really, really relative small space for long periods of time. And in a hospital, you would just have people who can't be vaccinated for one reason or another, and so therefore they are open to your germs. So for right now, I'm a screener. I've been a screener for 2 or 3 months. I rather enjoy my position, though I do not like the politics of my position, or the politics really anywhere within the place that I work. Well, it's an organization. What else do you expect? But I work for a temp service, so the temp service knows I've been trying out for this other security position, so that's a good thing. When I called yesterday to let them know I had to take the vehicle in, one of the ladies that I work with, who also has the same temp service, is like, oh, did you get the job? And I'm like, what? Wait, no, what? So, no, not yet. And keep your fingers crossed for me. Especially with my allergies. I mean, they found out that I smoke about half a pack a day, and they really weren't too, oh, okay, that's cool, no problem. I told them, yeah, I used to smoke about a pack and a half a day, but Utah kind of cured that. And we smoke in the garage, or outside the house. We have to physically get up and move. And like I said, the whole physical thing, laundry, dishes, up and down all over the place, clean this, take care of that, okay. But actually physically relocating to go and smoke a cigarette is something, I guess, that's beyond me, and something I honestly don't think about most of the time, which is a good thing, I'm guessing. But yeah, I made it to this point, the point that I was kind of terrified of making it to, because failing at this point would just be thoroughly disheartening and upsetting at all these months, and to reach this point And if I don't make it, it would be a terrible blow to my ego all the way around, which has taken several blows over the years, but this would be one hit too many, I think I would guess. Um, Beyond that, um, I want to write. I have not done so yet. My husband has gotten this idea in his head that a lot of video game companies, they have their coders, they have their game designers, but one of the positions that's hard to fill, and I have no idea why, you'd think there'd be tons of people lining up for it, is story writers. And he was like, well, you can spin a story out of nothing. He was like, you can create backstories for characters out of practically nothing. Why don't you look into this? And I'm like, well, number one, I wouldn't know how to. Number two, really? Number three, I guess I can do that pretty okay when I know the mindset of the person. Like, he's talking about the fact that I world build. He's talking about the fact that two or three characters that, say if we're doing D&D or we're doing riffs, then he'll give me a name, a location, a kind of like two or three sentences of, his character's motivation and where he might come from, and goes, make me a story, and I'll write him 5 to 10 pages of something. So he's got me on that one, but he really thinks that this is something that I could do, and I'm like, well, that'd be great if I knew where to go, but that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But we are talking a man who has been steadily, for like the last 6 months, building a game based off of riffs in his head. Now, this is a game that Microsoft put out and it immediately failed. It didn't cyberpunk fail, as in it couldn't actually work on any system, as in it got put out, there was no advertisement. The actual gameplay and everything else kind of blew, from what I understand. Everybody hated it. Everybody immediately forgot it. But we used to play this game as a, dice and paper type of game. And he actually has it all planned out exactly how he'd do this game. How you get your weaponry, how points be scored, what worlds you could go to, what levels you'd have to be to reach those worlds on the next, everything. And I'm like, that's great, honey, as long as you called it something besides riffs. And as long as we actually knew who to reach to sell a video game idea and actually have someone help you work on it. I'm like, there's Kickstarter campaigns out there. I actually have a game called Pillars of Eternity that I'm playing that was done via Kickstarter. But at the same time, it's like, first you actually have to find somebody to work with, then you have to find the audience, which shouldn't be that hard. But, first it's the finding somebody to work with and having developers and game designers and everything else, like, on your side helping you build this and not edging you out. So there's that. I'd like him to find somebody to help him develop this game because it sounds really, really cool. I'd play it in 2 seconds flat, but I realized I'm biased, but I'd still play it in 2 seconds flat. And he wants me to go write for games. That is whenever he's not writing my ass about, going to school again. And I'm like, honestly, even if we had 72-hour days, I still would, overflow it. Because, first there's this, this security naval police position. Then a writing job. Then the writing I actually want to do. All the books that I've got stacked up that I want to read. All the video games that I want to play. All the time I want to hang out with my kids and just hang out with them. Or hang out with my husband, just hang out with him. Plus going to school. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you could easily see how I could overflow a day. Never mind the fact that half the reason why I can't seem to catch up is because I get up around 5 o'clock in the morning. I go to work. Actually about 3:30 in the morning. Go to work. Got to be there before 5. Because the area I'm in opens up at 5, as in I'm opening it up. And then I work until about 1. And then I go pick up my youngest from school, unless it's a Wednesday. It's the only day he actually doesn't go to school. I pick up my youngest from school, try to run what errands I can so I can be home by between 1:30 and 1:45 so I can hand the keys to my husband so he can go to work. Get up, do it again. On the weekends, I'm usually pretty much wiped. This weekend, I said I was going to do all these things. For once, I did not do any of them. I didn't do a darn thing this weekend, which was kind of nice, but unfortunately, the weekend still wasn't long enough. So that is my life so far that I can recall. I'm pretty sure I'm always missing something. I'm always missing something. But the crazy's been pretty much nonstop. At my workplace, the area that I'm in is the main entrance. So we are taking patients' belongings, everything else. It took me about a month and a half, but we finally got somebody in to help with that, because literally writing everything down, taking down information, and getting patients' belongings into a bag and then getting it up on the floors is a lot more time consuming than you would think, and it literally detracted from what I was doing. Now, it got to where I could run that hoorah without thinking anything about it, but it was seriously starting to get stressful. And I'm just not getting paid that much more than minimum wage here to deal with that kind of stress. But at the same time, I have to keep reminding myself this is not permanent work. This is not permanent work. I'm looking for the day when I become obsolete. I hope that day happens soon. I'll probably still be wearing a mask, but one of these days, even at the hospital, screening people for COVID and temperatures and making sure they put on hand sanitizer and a mask before entering the hospital, one of these days that's going to go by the wayside. So, I'll still be one of the weirdos out there wearing a mask because I didn't catch the flu, I haven't caught any colds, anything within this last year, even when I've been forced to be out in the public. So I'll probably still be the goofball who's following rules that no longer exist, but I'm looking forward to the day when we don't have to do that. Wow, 22 minutes of absolute and utter drivel. I'm sorry. But the great thing is that I was able to get the car taken care of. Between both of us working and some of the stimulus coming in, it's kind of alleviated a lot of shit. There's also the fact that we were able to get the bed, which I didn't think was going to happen. This is right before hubby managed to wrench his leg, which what he did was like a month and a half or something like that ago. He was out in the yard. He stepped down. This yard's just full of holes. He's been trying to fill those in and get it all smoothed out. But he stepped down, and it kind of jarred. And, his knee kind of hurt. He was like, freaking twisted my damn knee. He didn't twist his knee. There's cartilage between where the two bones that sit behind the knee that comprise of your legs. The shin and where the thigh, where the thigh bone and the shin bone connect. There is a piece of cartilage that sits between the two. That's what he did with it. We're not too happy because the doctor that he went to immediately wanted to refer him, without letting him even see the x-ray. He was like, well, it looks kind of thin. Which is hilarious because you're saying it's inflamed, which means it's puffy. It looks kind of thin. I think you should go to a surgeon. So his options were keep it elevated for 2 weeks and don't move on it. Not really an option for somebody who has to work. Get an injection. Or go to a surgeon and have a surgeon try to fix it. Okay. The reason why we're kind of suspicious about the whole surgeon thing is because he said he couldn't tell if it was actually thin or not because it's inflamed. But we should go to a surgeon who's going to want to do surgeon things to get it checked out and see if there's something else that can be done. Now, the problem is that it is the leg he does not want worked on. I'm going to tell you why. Up in his hip, that ball socket that does this and allows your leg to move, He doesn't have that, is what he's got. Um, and that's because when he was really, really young, he had an amoeba that got into his bloodstream that literally ate out the hip socket. He had to learn how to walk without that ball joint being in his hip. They didn't know how to replace it on what was practically a baby without doing permanent damage. But they had him in like this walker thing for like the longest time, and he did eventually learn how to walk on it. Well, this means the muscles and everything around there are stretched and formed a certain way as to allow him to move. The second a surgeon tries to get in there and mess with that knee to do damage control on something they probably wouldn't be able to do damage control on in the first place, they're going to screw that up, which means that he's probably not going to be able to walk at all. And whenever you're doing surgeries on knees or any type of joint at all in particular, this generally requires multiple surgeries because you're talking about a joint that bends. So, yeah. So he doesn't feel pain as often anymore, but he is still supremely nervous. Of course, he is an older guy, so yeah, the cartilage there might be rather thin. He's always done extremely active and hands-on work most of his life. So a lot of climbing up and down ladders and bending and stretching in ways that most people don't have to do. A lot of time spent, you know, down on one knee inspecting things or welding or things like that that, you know, not your mostly average person isn't going to do unless they're a laborer or contractor. So he's been lucky to this point. He hasn't had as many back problems, anything like this. Of course, this literally happens right about the time we get this new bed. This new bed that we shouldn't have been able to get. I thought it was really weird. I'm like, oh, okay, they approved it? That's weird. One of the reasons why it was weird is because you remember, guys, that I had this bill hanging over my head from Outlook. Well, the naval base was calling to verify some of the information that I put on my report and all the paperwork that I filled out. And I let him know, yeah. I said, I do have a huge financial obligation, a debt, that, will most likely be on my credit report. That could definitely affect my credit. And I already had it written out, so I laid it out for him. Exactly where it came from, why. How the company kind of bugged me. I hadn't heard anything from them in quite a long time. I didn't know why, but they were kind of sketchy to begin with. And he was like, well, this is what's interesting. I was like, oh boy, what's interesting? He was like, there's nothing here. I was like, what? He was like, there's nothing here. He's like, it's really, really weird. I've had a lot of people that I've had to tell that they have something on their credit report that they didn't know they had forgotten about, or they thought that they paid off. He's like, but I've never had somebody tell me about a debt that didn't exist. He was like, but go ahead, pull it up. He was like, send me a copy so I can see that you've pulled it up and you've looked at it. He was like, but this debt doesn't exist. He was like, you just told me this whole entire thing. It took about 15 minutes for me to tell him this. This whole entire thing, and it doesn't even exist. It. So, that debt is gone. I have no idea what happened to it. I have no idea. I mean, it disappeared somewhere over the last year. I have no idea what happened. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, but at the same time, I have no idea what happened. But I looked it up, and sure enough, it's not there. So that explains how I was able to get the bed. Which, by the way, is quite lovely. I got a gravity blanket with it, which is even more lovely. Soon I shall be going face planting into that. It does help if you can get more sleep, which seems to be a problem with me, as I have to be up at 3:30 in the morning, but I have a really super hard time getting to bed around, say, 9 o'clock. Like right now, it is 10:17. I have to watch out for the point where I start to wake up, which is in about 15 minutes or so, because then it takes me forever to fall asleep. And I mean, twice now. This is the kind of crazy town. Twice now, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've had time with my family that I could spend. My husband's had a day off. I've had a day off. The kids aren't really occupied. I can hang out with everybody. I go down for a nap because I got off of work. Didn't bother to move after that point. Now, my husband, because of his late hours, he usually goes to bed between 3 and 4. So I definitely, as he's hitting the bed, I'm getting up. But, yeah, on one of these times, I managed to wake up within, 10 hours. So I got to hang out with him a couple hours before I went to work. And the other time, I, literally slept for 12 hours. I have no idea what's wrong with me. But it was like, my body just I'm done. And I'm like, I don't know why you're done now and why you weren't done a couple weeks ago, but okay. We'll roll with it. I think what made me maddest, though, is that I missed out on spending any time whatsoever with the people I wanted to spend time with. And, of course, like I said, even though my job's 5 to 1, get the baby, drop the car off to him, immediately get involved in doing other things laundry and getting dishes started or whatever, getting something to eat, and either just zoning, don't ask me what I'm doing mentally, or I take a nap and then I get up and fix dinner and I gotta go down in a couple of hours, yeah. So I don't get the time I want to spend with you guys. As it is, I've only got a couple more posts I've got to catch up on, and of all things, I have my own posts that I have to answer a couple of comments to. But other than that, so far, knock on wood, I'm all caught up. Like I said, I know I didn't cover half of what I wanted to cover in 32 minutes. Oh my God. But hopefully I got everybody at least somewhat on the level. I'm skimming the surface of the last couple of months. There's been a lot of what and crazy and up and down over the last couple of months. Besides hubby's leg and the car, and it's been a crazy couple of months. It's just I hit that point where I'm like, I really need to post about this because this is really, but I'm not caught up. Shit. I shouldn't be telling anybody about what I'm doing when I don't know what's going on with everyone else. And I have to go find out what's going on with everyone else. By the time I get caught up with what's going on with everyone else, everybody's up and moving. I can't do a video post. Quite frankly, what I want to do, I'm too lazy, to type out because, welcome to my world, I'm too lazy to type. And then it just never gets posted and it gets forgotten when the next pile of crazy hits. So far, I've managed to catch you all up on the insanity. Summer is almost here. I don't know whether or not my eldest is going to have to do summer school. I don't think my youngest is going to have to. He's done well so far. But my eldest is it has been a bad year for him. He has been completely 100% virtual, and even if he has to repeat 9th grade, he is going back into a regular high school next year because he just does not do online well. He needs schedules and he needs people. He needs things lined out for him and he needs people. So there's that. The cats are otherwise okay. Hubby, aside from his leg and grumpiness because he has to work with good old boys, which is personally galling for him, he's relatively okay. His work's issues have issues that have issues. Let's just put it like that. But it's one of those things of thank fuck we're temps. But yeah, I'm pretty much caught up on... Oh, I had to cut my hair, guys. Sorry. About this much of it had to go bye-bye. It was nothing but split ends. But I actually felt better after I cut my hair. And I never thought I'd say that in a million years. But I can now actually grow it out. Albeit, it'll be slow. But I can actually now grow it out without combating split ends that are already there and working their way up. So keep your fingers crossed on that one. But I can't think of anything else that I have to update. I'll probably have to correct myself later. Anybody who's hung in this long, I mean, we are talking almost 37 minutes, people. Come on. Anybody who's hung in this long, you definitely are owed a cookie. I'm just really super glad to be posting and be part of my happy place again. Hopefully this stays consistent, but I do apologize for the inconsistencies. I know you're only doing like 8 hours a day. What's the problem? Well, it being so early following into the middle of the afternoon when my schedule still wants to tell me that I'm a graveyarder, I will always be a graveyarder, or I just do day shift and start a couple of hours later than 5 a.m. I think that's where half the problem is. It seems every time I wake up between 2 and 3 in the morning, I just have no energy or time after that point. But other than that, I'm doing okay. I've gained a little bit of weight. Like I said, I'm just crossing my fingers on being able to do 19 push-ups in 2 minutes, which I can mostly pull off, and 1.5 miles in 17 minutes and 30 seconds. So keep your fingers crossed for me. I will be posting this as soon as possible. Know that I love you guys. I miss you all. I am so glad to be posting again. And 90th post. I mean, we haven't hit 100 yet, but hopefully that benchmark won't take too long, and hopefully it won't be as long as this one. So until I talk to you guys again, hopefully next time I will actually have an update for whether or not my kids actually have dental and doctor's appointments. The eldest is the only one who has yet to be vaccinated at all. The youngest had his first jab. Hubby and I are fully vaccinated. The eldest just needs to get his first jab, which hopefully will be the weekend. And hopefully I can get, like I said, doctor's and dental appointments for them before the summer's out. So, till I update you with other boring stuff to make your hair curl and make it go, why the hell did I hit play? Take good care of yourselves. Take good care of each other. And know that I love you. Bye.